I tore the door open so hard it rattled the frame, and the chaos hit me all at once. Cheap perfume, pounding bass, shrill, fake laughter. The room was packed, wall to wall with sweaty bodies and red Solo cups. Everyone glowing under those twitchy LED lights Mike always thought made his parties legendary. I hadn't even stepped fully inside before I saw her, Amanda. And she wasn't just chatting. She wasn't just dancing. She was wrapped around Brandon, my coworker. The guy I loaned my golf clubs to just 2 weeks ago because he said he wanted to give the game a try. Amanda's fingers were tangled in his hair like she was drowning, and he was the air she needed to breathe. Her mouth crashed against his so hard I could see the smeared lipstick from 10 feet away, staining both their faces. His hands, all over her. She clung to him like she was magnetized, grinding on him like the rest of us didn't exist. And when I say the room froze, I mean it. Time itself held its breath. The music stuttered like the DJ's brain short-circuited. People with drinks paused mid-sip. A girl I didn't even know dropped her phone, the clatter slicing through the silence like a scream. Then Amanda's eyes lifted and met mine. Just for a second. Just long enough for a flicker of guilt to flash across her face and vanish. She ripped herself away from Brandon, wiped her mouth with the back of her hand like it was an inconvenience, and glared at me. Actually glared. Like I was the problem here. My hand twitched. My chest locked up. I couldn't even breathe. Every muscle in my body was wound tight as wire. My jaw clenched so hard it popped. Amanda tilted her head, flicked her hair like she was starring in some teen drama, and then, God, the audacity. She sneered and said, "You're not supposed to be here yet." No apology. No regret. Not even a half-assed lie to smooth it over. Just pure, scathing annoyance. Like I'd crashed some fantasy she'd been living in. I stepped into the room, each stride crushing the shards of my trust beneath my shoes. Brandon shifted, awkward, scanning the room like someone might rescue him. Mike opened his mouth, then closed it, and took a long drink instead. Every eye was on me, waiting for the detonation, waiting for the meltdown. Amanda crossed her arms, jaw locked tight, like a sulking teenager busted sneaking in late. I was still reeling. I wasn't supposed to be here yet. What? Were they going to clean up the wreckage before I walked in? Smile in my face like nothing happened? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Shatter something. I wanted to punch that smug look right off Brandon's face. But more than anything, I wanted to understand how the hell we ended up here. This was the same woman who once cried because I got her the wrong flowers and she thought it meant I didn't know her. The woman who used to trace her fingers over my chest and whisper that she couldn't imagine life without me. And now she stood there, arms folded, chin raised, daring me to lose it. I felt everything. 6 years of us, memories, vows, dumb inside jokes, lazy Sunday mornings, road trips, pillow talk, crumble into ash. And Amanda? She didn't even flinch. The woman standing across from me wasn't my wife. She was a stranger. Cold. Calculated. Someone who no longer saw me as her partner, but as a barrier to her freedom. I opened my mouth to speak. Anything. But she got there first. Smirking. Voice sharp enough to cut. Maybe if you paid more attention, you would have seen this coming. The room gasped, loud and ugly. Like the crowd when someone lands a hit below the belt. And right there, under flickering lights and dollar store decorations, my whole life imploded. Amanda turned away without another word. Back to Brandon. Like I was already gone. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some drunken mistake. This was deliberate. This was betrayal with intent. I didn't move. I couldn't. My brain couldn't seem to tell my body what to do. I stood there, frozen, made of stone and heartbreak, while the party tried to pretend nothing had happened. A few people glanced down at their phones, desperate for an escape hatch. Amanda, the woman I once swore I'd protect, the woman I built my world around. She didn't even look back. She just grabbed Brandon by the collar, dragged him toward the kitchen, and smiled at him like I never existed at all. Like I was nothing more than a bad decision she'd finally walked away from. I finally forced my body to move, cutting through the thick, suffocating silence, boots crunching across scattered ice and crushed chips. Mike stepped into my path, hand half raised, lips twitching with some pathetic attempt at an apology. I slammed my shoulder into him, hard enough to knock him into the wall. In the kitchen, I found them. Amanda was laughing, full, unfiltered laughter like I was the punchline to a joke she'd been telling for weeks. Brandon wasn't laughing. He was looking around like he'd just realized he'd stumbled into a graveyard and forgotten flowers. Amanda's voice came out soft, sweet, and sharp as a blade. Don't make a scene, Dylan. God, you're so dramatic. I don't know what shattered first, my heart, my respect for her, or the last scrap of self-control I'd been white-knuckling like a lifeline. I slammed both hands down onto the counter. A glass toppled and exploded across the tile, the sound slicing through the room like a gunshot. How long, Amanda? My voice barely sounded human. It was shredded, torn straight from my lungs. How long have you been screwing him behind my back? I choked out. She didn't even blink. Didn't flinch. Just reached for a bottle of wine, poured a messy glass, and muttered, "Does it matter?" Like I was a fool for even asking. Like her betrayal wasn't worth the effort of pretending to explain. Brandon tried to mumble something. Maybe an apology, maybe a defense, but Amanda waved him off like he was an annoying commercial. She sipped her wine, leaning against the counter with a lazy smirk, like she was on a break, not standing in the ashes of our marriage. "You were boring, Dylan," she said, her voice soaked in scorn. "You work late, you never want to go out, you act like you're 70. And just like that, boom. Her words hit harder than any punch ever could. This woman, the woman I loved, defended, dreamed with, was casually tearing open my chest and laughing while she watched me bleed. "You could have left," I rasped, each word dragging through my throat like broken glass. "You could have said something. Filed for divorce. Anything but this." She shrugged, actually shrugged, as if years of love and loyalty were no more important than flipping a coin. "I didn't want to deal with it," she said. "This was easier. Easier. Easier to lie. Easier to sneak around. Easier to humiliate me in front of half the people we knew." The room spun. I clutched the counter to stay upright, the edge biting into my palms. Around us, people gathered, like it was a show. Whispering. Snickering. Someone muttered, "Damn, she's savage." And still, Amanda looked bored. Stunning, heartless, untouchable. Brandon finally found his voice. "Look, man, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I turned on him so fast he recoiled. "Shut the hell up," I growled. "You don't get to talk. You're nothing." Amanda laughed. Laughed. Clapped her hands like I'd just pulled off a magic trick. "There he is," she mocked. "The angry little boy hiding under all that nice guy crap. God, it took you long enough to show up." I should have walked away right then. Should have taken whatever scraps of dignity I had left and left the wreckage behind. But something inside me still needed answers. Answers that burned like oxygen in a collapsing lung. Was it just him? I asked, barely more than a whisper. Not a demand. A plea. Amanda's smile widened. She took another sip, then said it. One syllable, casual and cruel. "Nope." It hit like a bullet. I staggered back a step. The room tilted. Somewhere, someone gasped. It could have been me. "Who else?" I asked, though I didn't want to know. I just needed to feel the full weight of the knife before she twisted it. Amanda shrugged again. "Does it really matter, Dylan? Once you're trash, everyone treats you like trash. I just realized it first." And then she turned her back, poured herself another drink. Like I was nothing. Like I'd never been anything. That's when I knew. I wasn't standing in the wreckage of a relationship. I was standing in the smoking crater of a deliberate execution. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't weakness. This was scorched earth betrayal, and she'd made sure nothing could survive it. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I stood there for what felt like forever, each second dragging across my skin like razor wire. My chest was hollow. My fists clenched so hard my nails bit deep into my palms. I couldn't feel my breath. Couldn't feel anything but the raw, pulsing absence of everything we'd ever been. Amanda didn't even glance my way. She leaned into Brandon, smiling at something he whispered, sipping wine like a queen watching peasants burn. The room had stopped pretending to look away. They stared, wide-eyed and hungry, like rubberneckers at a wreck, unable to look away from the carnage. Someone muttered, "This is better than Netflix." That was it. That was the final snap. The last thread holding me to reason, to restraint, to whatever version of me still believed in playing fair. And I moved fast. But not toward Amanda. Not toward Brandon. I moved toward the table in the center of the room, the one piled high with drinks, snacks, and party favors. And without a second thought, I grabbed the cheap plastic punch bowl, red liquid sloshing wildly. Then I hurled it with everything I had. It crashed into the wall behind Amanda in a spectacular explosion of crimson, spraying her, Brandon, and the kitchen cabinets in a sticky flood. Screams rang out. Someone dropped their phone with a loud crack. Brandon stumbled back, frantically swiping at his face. Amanda stood frozen, soaked, her white blouse now a red-stained second skin. She blinked, finally shocked, finally rattled. "Are you insane?" she shrieked, storming toward me like she was about to slap me. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I laughed. A hollow, broken sound I barely recognized as my own. "You want to act like trash?" My voice was sharp enough to draw blood. "Fine. Welcome to the dumpster fire, sweetheart." She opened her mouth, ready to spit something back, but I wasn't done. Not yet. I raised my voice, louder, stronger, so every single person in that godforsaken house would hear me. "You think this is about boredom?" I snarled. "This is about you being a selfish, lying, gutless coward. You couldn't end things like an adult, so you dragged our marriage through the dirt just to feel powerful." Amanda tried to talk over me, tried to salvage her facade, but the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. I saw it, the flicker of fear behind her fury, the realization that the mask was slipping. "And you?" I turned to Brandon, who looked ready to evaporate. "You're not special. You're just her latest side dish, something she uses to feel wanted. She'll toss you aside the second something shinier walks by." The room shifted. Murmurs. Uneasy stares. No one could pretend this wasn't real anymore. I wanted it all out. Every poison word. Every truth she'd buried under charm and manipulation. That's when Amanda lunged, her palm cracking across my face. The slap echoed like a firecracker. A girl near the couch gasped. I turned back to Amanda slowly, my cheek blazing, and smiled. A jagged, hollow smile that held no joy. "That all you've got?" I whispered. "Because you already took everything else." And for the first time, Amanda had nothing to say. No witty retort. No cruel one-liner. She just stood there, trembling, furious, and drenched in sticky red punch. Ugly now, not in looks, but in spirit. All that venom she'd hidden behind her beauty was finally out in the open. I looked around the room, at all the wide eyes and stunned faces. Then, with calm finality, I said, "Enjoy the rest of the party. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me." And I walked out. No glance back. No hesitation. Every step down that hallway was a chain snapping. Every breath felt cleaner than the last. By the time I hit the street, my heart was hammering. My fist still clenched tight. But something else was there too. Freedom. The raw, painful kind, but freedom nonetheless. I didn't know what came next, but I knew what wouldn't, begging someone like Amanda to love me again. I walked like I was burning from the inside out. Each step down the driveway shedding another layer of who I'd been. I didn't care that my jacket was still inside. Didn't care about the car keys in Amanda's purse. I just wanted distance. As much as I could get. I hit the sidewalk, hands trembling, and pulled out my phone. I sent 2 words to Tyler. "Done. Leaving." Then powered it off. Let the whole damn world burn behind me. I walked. No destination. Just the rhythm of my boots pounding against the pavement. The cool night air stinging my skin. There was a strange peace in it. If I didn't think too hard about how my life had just been vaporized. For a moment, I thought, maybe it was over. Maybe I could finally start to climb out of the wreckage. That's when my phone, dead just moments ago, flared back to life. Calls, texts, voicemails piling up like bodies. Amanda's name lighting up my screen again and again, like a horror movie villain refusing to die. I ignored them, kept walking. But curiosity is a cruel thing, and some twisted part of me needed to know how far she'd go. I ducked into a gas station, bought a bottle of water I didn't even want, and sat outside on the curb. My fingers scrolled, heavy with dread. The first messages were predictable. Rage, blame, accusations. "You embarrassed me. You made a scene. You humiliated me in front of our friends." Our friends. The same ones who stood by while she grinded on Brandon like it was a halftime show. But then the messages changed. Around the 5th voicemail, her tone cracked, shifted. Suddenly, Amanda wasn't the aggressor anymore. She was the victim. Tears. Pleading. She said she made a mistake, that she was drunk, that it didn't mean anything, that we could fix it, that she still loved me. Each voicemail got more desperate, more frantic, until the final one, where she screamed into the phone like a banshee unleashed. "If you leave me, I'll make sure you regret it. I'll ruin you, Dylan." I swear to God, I'll ruin you. I just stared at the screen, the cold plastic of the water bottle sweating in my grip. I should have been shocked, furious, devastated, but all I felt was numb, hollow, like everything inside me had been carved out and left to rot somewhere I couldn't reach. You'd think when someone threatens to destroy you, after burning down your entire life, you'd feel rage, hatred, something, but I didn't. Not anymore. All I felt was tired. The kind of tired that settles in your bones and doesn't leave. That's when the second betrayal hit. Tyler called. My best friend. The guy who invited me to the party. The one person I thought would have my back, no matter what. I almost didn't answer. God, I wish I hadn't. Dude, you need to calm down, he said, diving in like I was already guilty. His voice low, urgent, like he was trying to stop me from walking into traffic. Amanda's freaking out. She's telling everyone you attacked her, saying you got violent. The words didn't make sense at first. What? I asked, the breath catching in my throat. I didn't touch her. Yeah, man, I know, Tyler said quickly. But you threw the punch bowl. You yelled. You broke a glass. People are talking. It's not going to look good if she takes this to the next level. I nearly dropped the phone. The gas station lights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were about to die, casting long, warped shadows across the pavement. Amanda didn't just want to hurt me. She wanted to erase me. To twist the story so she could play the poor, broken victim crushed beneath my so-called rage. Tell me you're not buying this bullshit, I said, standing up so fast the water bottle tumbled into the street. Tyler, you were there. You saw what happened. Silence. Long, thick, gut-wrenching silence. I mean, Tyler finally muttered. You did kind of lose it. People are saying it got ugly. I closed my eyes, held my breath, tried not to punch the sky. Tyler wasn't going to back me up. He wasn't going to stand beside me. He was already sliding over to the side that cost him nothing, the safe side. Her side. I hung up, didn't say a word, just stood there, fists clenched, the night pressing down around me like a weight I couldn't lift. Amanda, Brandon, now Tyler. One by one, they peeled off their masks, and underneath, they were all the same. It wasn't enough to watch me drown. They wanted to hold me under, until the bubbles stopped. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about saving my name anymore. This was survival. I wasn't just fighting Amanda. I was fighting the version of me she'd painted for the world. And if they wanted a villain so bad, maybe it was time I gave them one. I stood there beneath the humming lights, the taste of betrayal thick on my tongue, and made a decision. Cold, clean, final, like a blade sliding home. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't plead. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let her finish the job. They wanted someone to blame? Let them. I pulled out my phone. And for the first time all night, my hands didn't shake. Funny how betrayal sharpens everything. First, my boss. I knew Amanda's lies would hit work by Monday. I didn't give him a sob story. No theatrics. Just the facts. Heads up, Amanda's spreading lies after cheating. There's going to be noise. I have proof. We can talk Monday if needed. Send. Professional. Calm. Deadly. Cut the roots before they spread. Next, evidence. Amanda had once bragged about never deleting anything. Said it was how she won arguments. Always had receipts. Her arrogance was about to become my weapon. We shared a cloud account. I still had access. I logged in. I started digging. Within minutes, the mask came off. Screenshots. Texts. Dozens of them. Between Amanda and Brandon. Yeah, but also others. Names I knew. Names that burn like acid. Some were strangers. Some were coworkers. One was even Mike. And these weren't harmless messages. No innocent flirting. No plausible deniability. These were explicit. Filthy. A catalog of betrayal. Things that made me feel like the punchline in a joke they never stopped telling. She talked about me like I was a footnote. Just a paycheck. A routine. A fallback plan for when her adventures got old. The version of her I'd loved didn't exist. Behind the tight dresses and practiced smile was someone crueler. Colder. I should have been devastated. But all I felt was calm. A deadly, surgical kind of calm. The kind that settles in when there's nothing left to break. I downloaded everything. Organized it. Timestamped every exchange. Built a clean, indisputable timeline. Because if Amanda wanted war, she'd just given me the ammunition. She forgot I knew how to fire back. Next move, get my house in order. I texted Chris, my lawyer buddy. Midnight be damned. He owed me a favor for that one time I covered his ass at work. Need urgent consult. Marriage stuff. Legal. Serious. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. Chris was sharp, wide awake, already picking up the scent of blood in the water. After I laid out the facts, quick and brutal, he gave me the best advice I'd heard all night. Move fast. File first. Control the narrative. He promised paperwork would be ready by Monday. Separation. Divorce. Emergency protection orders if Amanda tried to escalate. And she would. I knew that now. Amanda wouldn't just burn bridges. She'd light the whole damn city just to keep me from crossing the street. Then came the emotional cleanup. Hardest part. Most necessary. I made a list. Every so-called friend who stood by tonight and did nothing, who watched her humiliate me, who laughed, who said nothing while I bled in front of them. Each name got a mental bullet. Dead to me. No warnings. No long explanations. I wasn't dragging dead weight anymore. I wasn't making space for people who only showed up when I was smiling. Amanda taught me one last lesson. Love without loyalty is just a performance. And I was done pretending. By the time I finished, it was almost 2 in the morning. The streets outside were empty. The whole city felt hollow, like it was holding its breath right along with me. I sat on that curb for a long time, breathing slow, letting the war inside me settle into something colder, sharper, focused. Amanda thought she'd broken me, thought she'd crushed me, turned me into another casualty, another hollowed-out shell of a man. But she made a fatal mistake. She forgot what happens when you strip a man down to nothing. When you take the love, the trust, the future, and grind it all into dust. She thought it was the end. But no, it was only the beginning. Sunday morning cracked open under a gray, miserable sky. But inside me, the weather didn't matter. No rain, no storm, no light, just frost. Numb, controlled. Amanda wasn't my wife anymore. She was an enemy. And enemies don't get mercy. I moved like a machine, packing bags, locking accounts, calling the bank to reroute my direct deposit into a brand new private account. I froze every shared card, every safety net she thought she still had access to. Called the landlord, told him my name was off the lease by next week. Circumstances changed. By noon, every inch of the life Amanda once used like a hotel key was gone. Every dollar, every option, every backup plan she thought she could fall into had disappeared. And still, she kept trying. My phone buzzed again. Her name lit up the screen, clinging to me like smoke in a burning house. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. And this one, oh, this one was a masterpiece. Dylan, please just call me back. We can talk. You're being dramatic. You're acting like a child. You're ruining both our lives for nothing. Don't you see? I only did it because I was lonely. You were never around. Classic Amanda. Even now, burning everything to the ground. She couldn't admit it was her fault. When seduction failed, she pivoted to apologies. When apologies didn't work, she leaned into blame. And when that crumbled too, she played the victim. But the moment that didn't bend me, she twisted the knife deeper. What Amanda didn't realize was that the man who walked into that party, the husband she thought she could manipulate, no longer existed. That version of me was dead, buried under 6 years of lies and a single night of brutal, shattering truth. Later that afternoon, Chris called. The papers were ready. Filed. Fast-tracked. Emergency status, thanks to Amanda's voicemail threats. She'd be served by Tuesday. But it wasn't just divorce paperwork. It was a full restraining order petition. Temporary exclusive use of the apartment and car. A preemptive strike, tight, surgical, to stop Amanda from pulling any more of her stunts while my back was turned. Chris chuckled as he ran through the details. Buddy, you're going scorched earth. I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. That's the idea, I told him. And that night, I did something Amanda would never see coming. I went public. No rage. No name calling. No theatrics. Just one post on my social media, calm, clipped, and cold. To friends and family, Amanda and I are separating. I've learned she's been unfaithful with multiple people over a prolonged period. I won't be sharing further details. Please respect my decision to move forward with dignity. Short, precise, surgical. A quiet blade slid between the ribs of the perfect image she'd spent years crafting. And the reaction? Immediate. Because not everyone at that party was loyal to Amanda. Turns out, some people had seen what happened, heard the things she said, and felt sick about it. They just hadn't known what to do. Until I gave them the signal. Suddenly, the messages poured in. Private DMs, texts, Quiet calls. Stories about Amanda flirting with strangers on so-called girls' nights. Stories about her leaving Brandon's place at sunrise. Stories about her trying to hook up with married friends when she thought no one was watching. And then, one girl, not even close to me, just an acquaintance, sent me the kill shot. A screenshot. Amanda, in some private group chat, bragging. LOL, Dylan is so whipped, he'll never leave no matter what I do, face with tears of joy. There it was. No excuses. No loneliness. No, you work too much. Just pure, vile cruelty. I sent everything to Chris. He laughed, sharp and satisfied. You're going to bury her. Good. She earned every ounce of this. That night, I slept like I hadn't in months. No nightmares. No spiraling thoughts. Just the deep, still sleep of a man who's finally let go of the anchor dragging him under. And when Monday morning came, it didn't crawl in soft. It crashed through the sky like thunder. I woke before the sun. Something buzzed through my chest. Not fear. Purpose. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the next blow. I was the blow. By 9 a.m., Amanda had already lit up my phone, 30 missed calls. Dozens of texts, bouncing between rage and panic. You're ruining my life. Please come home. We can talk. If you think you're walking away from this clean, think again. I'll tell everyone you hit me if you don't come back. Classic Amanda. When crying doesn't work, threaten. When threatening fails, cry harder. I didn't respond. Didn't even read half of them. I had bigger things to do. At 10 sharp, I walked into Chris's office. He was waiting with coffee and that same wicked grin. A thick folder lay on the desk. Amanda's future, neatly printed, carefully tabbed, lined up like bullets in a magazine. We filed everything this morning, Chris said, sliding it toward me. Restraining order hearings in 3 days. Divorce is initiated. You've got the apartment locked down. Accounts frozen. She's cornered, Dylan. Cornered. And this time, there's no way out. Exactly where she belonged, trapped, exposed, and powerless. I signed where Chris pointed, my hands steady as iron. Every stroke of the pen felt like sealing a wound Amanda thought would bleed me out. But I wasn't dying. I was stitching myself back together. By noon, Amanda was officially served. Right there at work, in front of her coworkers. The envelope dropped into her manicured hands by a cold, stone-faced server who didn't flinch when she broke into hysterics. Witnesses said she screamed. Threw the papers across the office floor like they were on fire. Tried to chase after the server, wailing that it was a setup, that none of it was real. Didn't matter. The trap had snapped shut. The gears were grinding forward now, and she was locked in. By 2 p.m., the tone of her texts started to shift again. The rage was gone, replaced by desperation. She sent me a photo, her face smeared with running mascara, eyes wide and wet, captioned, "Is this what you wanted? To destroy me?" There was a time, God, there was a time, when that photo would have destroyed me. When seeing her cry would have kicked every protector instinct into overdrive. But not anymore. Now I looked at it the way you'd watch an abandoned house cave in on itself. No sympathy. Just inevitability. You build your world out of lies, betrayal, and arrogance. You don't get to sob when it collapses. I didn't respond. Not a word. Radio silence. Every baited message, every dramatic reach for attention, I left them all unread. The only communication now ran through Chris. Cold. Legal. Unshakable. By late afternoon, Amanda tried to play her next card. A dirty one. I got a call from HR. She had reached out to them directly, claimed I was unstable, said I had anger issues, that she feared for her safety. But Chris had warned me. I was ready. I had spent Sunday night building my case like a fortress. So when HR asked for my side, I handed them everything. The voicemails where she threatened me, the screenshots of her manipulation, the timeline that showed exactly who had done what and when. It took 15 minutes for HR to see the truth. They thanked me politely, said no further action would be taken. In fact, they quietly flagged Amanda's contact attempts as harassment. Another door slammed in her face. By 6 p.m., the whispers started. Mutual friends who once stood beside her started ghosting. Some blocked her entirely. Others messaged me, sheepish and guilt-ridden. I had no idea it was this bad. I'm so sorry. Fake guilt. They didn't know. Deep down, they all knew what kind of person Amanda was. They just didn't care, until it cost them something. I didn't reply. Let them sit with it. Let them drown in the regret they earned. I wasn't here to save anyone. And Amanda? She unraveled. Fast. That night she posted a long, unhinged rant on Instagram. Claimed she was the victim. Said she'd been betrayed, abused. That she was fighting for her life against a man who'd turned everyone against her. But receipts don't lie. One of our mutuals, someone with more spine than the rest, posted the screenshots in the comments. Her texts, her bragging, her planning. The post vanished within the hour. But it was too late. The image she hid behind was gone, shattered beyond repair. And me? I didn't have to lift a finger. Just sat back, poured myself a drink, and watched it burn. The same way she tried to burn me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't broken. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hollow. I was free. Amanda taught me the most brutal truth. That sometimes, the people you love the most are the ones who carve the deepest wounds. The ones who smile while they slip the knife between your ribs. But she also taught me something better. When you survive someone like her, you don't just recover, you evolve. You become colder, smarter, sharper, unbreakable. And I wasn't finished yet. Because Amanda still had one more dirty trick up her sleeve. And she was about to learn the last hard truth. When you back a man into a corner, when you leave him with nothing but the ashes of everything he loved, you better make sure you finish the job. Spoiler? She didn't. Tuesday morning rolled in quiet. No screams. No voicemails. Just silence, the kind that comes before a storm. No desperate texts. No new lies clawing at my inbox like wounded animals. For a moment, it almost seemed like Amanda had finally accepted the truth, that it was over. Almost. Because people like Amanda, those who feed off control, chaos, and attention, they don't surrender. They don't lose quietly. They go down claws first, dragging as much destruction with them as possible. Her final Hail Mary came at noon. I was in a diner, nursing a black coffee, letting the silence settle into my bones when Chris's text buzzed through. Heads up. She's trying to file a fake domestic violence claim. Emergency hearing today. Get to the courthouse now. The words barely registered before my body was already in motion. I slapped cash on the table and stormed out, heart hammering, not with fear, but fury. It was pathetic, disgusting, almost laughable, if it hadn't been so dangerous. Amanda couldn't win the divorce, couldn't win public sympathy, couldn't even manipulate the narrative anymore. So now, she was trying to burn down the whole damn building. She thought if she painted me as an abuser, slapped a false label on me, she could force a settlement, twist the court's arm, scare me into silence. She didn't realize I wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't facing a husband desperate to hold things together. She was facing a man who had nothing left to lose. I reached the courthouse with minutes to spare. Chris met me on the steps, file in hand, face set like stone. Everything's here, he said. Witnesses. Her texts. Your spotless record. We're ready. The hearing was a blur of tension and lies. Amanda sat across from me dressed for sympathy. Plain clothes. No makeup. Hair pulled back. A tissue trembling in one hand like she'd practiced the scene in a mirror. She wept. Spoke in a quivering voice. Claimed I screamed at her. Threw things. Said she feared for her life when I hurled the punch bowl. She twisted that night into a horror show with herself at the center. Innocent, helpless, wronged. The judge listened. Patiently. Let her spin her web of fiction. And then Chris stood. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just cold, precise truth. He presented the texts. Amanda bragging about cheating, mocking me, plotting to fake abuse claims if I ever tried to leave. The voicemails where she promised to ruin me. The screenshots where she laughed about how easily she could flip the narrative. We had statements. Witnesses who saw her with Brandon before I even entered the party. We had a timeline. A case so clean it could have been used in a textbook. Amanda's face changed halfway through, from delicate victim to open panic. You could see the moment the mask slipped. The moment she realized this wasn't working anymore. The judge looked like he wanted to be sick. He denied her request on the spot. No recess. No deliberation. This, he said, voice sharp and cold, is a malicious misuse of the court's time and resources. This case is being flagged for review and possible sanctions. Amanda's lawyer looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Amanda stood there, shaking, exposed, labeled, for the first time ever, with words she couldn't outrun. Liar. Manipulator. Threat. I didn't smile. Didn't even look at her. Giving her my gaze would have fed the fire. I walked out of that courtroom steady and silent. each step lighter than the one before. I wasn't just winning. I was alive. And that kind of survival? That's revenge in its purest form. Outside, Chris clapped me on the shoulder. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "She's cooked." But it wasn't quite over. Not yet. That night, as I sat alone in the apartment, sipping whiskey, watching the city blink beyond my windows, my phone buzzed one last time. "Amanda, you're a monster. I loved you once. I hope you rot alone." I stared at it, then deleted it. No reply. No more oxygen for her fire. Because the truth? Amanda never loved anyone but Amanda. And monsters, real ones, they don't create people like me. They reveal them. And me? I wasn't broken. Wasn't bitter. Wasn't destroyed. I was reborn. The days that followed unfolded in slow motion. But this time, it wasn't me crumbling. It was Amanda. Word spread fast after the hearing. Faster than I could have predicted. Maybe because people love a fall from grace. Maybe because deep down, they'd always sensed the cracks behind her perfect smile. They'd just been waiting for someone else to shatter the glass. And slip it did. Hard. First, it was her job. Turned out her meltdown, when she got served, wasn't the only mess she left behind at the office. After my HR department flagged her for harassment, someone higher up decided to look a little deeper. What they found? Amanda had been using company time and company resources to flirt with Brandon and to send me hostile messages. Violation of professionalism. Breach of conduct. By Friday, she was fired. No grand send-off. No farewell lunch. Just a cold, clinical email telling her to collect her things and leave her badge at the front desk. Second, the friend group, or what was left of it. By now, anyone with functioning eyes and a conscience had connected the dots. Amanda wasn't the heartbroken wife she pretended to be. She was the one who built the bomb and set the timer. People unfollowed, blocked her, ghosted her like she was contagious. Even Brandon bailed. Apparently, being the side piece lost its edge when everyone started laughing behind his back. Imagine detonating your entire reputation for a woman who couldn't keep a single lie straight for more than a week. Third, her family. That one hit differently. Amanda always bragged that her parents were ride or die, unshakably on her side. But someone, definitely not me, sent them the screenshots. The bragging, the threats, the lies, the fake abuse claims. Even blood has a breaking point. One day, Amanda's mom, the same woman who once called me the best thing that ever happened to her daughter, showed up at my door. In tears, she apologized. Said she didn't raise Amanda to be like this. Said she was sorry. Said they were ashamed. I didn't say much back. What could I say? I wasn't there to fix Amanda. Never was. I nodded. Wished her well. Closed the door. Some doors, once shut, stay shut forever. And Amanda? She kept clawing. Desperate Instagram stories about healing and growth. Cringe posts about betrayal and being let down by those closest to her. Same tired act. Same empty spotlight. But nobody was watching anymore. Her audience had left the theater. Her stage had collapsed. Her empire of lies and filters and pity had burned to ash. And all that was left was smoke and silence. And me? I started over. From scratch. 2 months later, I got promoted. My boss said he respected how I handled personal adversity. Translation: he saw the storm and saw that I didn't fold. I moved into a new place. No shared closets. No ghosts in the walls. Just clean floors, open windows, and silence that actually felt good. I started working out again. Hard. Not just rebuilding my body, but detoxing my mind, my spirit. Every drop of sweat bled her venom out of my system. Every run pushed me farther from the hell she tried to drag me into. And friends? The real ones surfaced. They called, checked in, brought beers without prying. The ones who stayed were the ones worth keeping. The rest? Dead to me. Good riddance. But the most important thing I found was peace. Not the flashy kind. Not some dramatic rain-soaked movie moment. No, real peace comes quiet. One morning at a time. One deep breath. One unburdened dream. I stopped asking why Amanda did what she did. Stopped rewinding the film. Searching for clues in every missed call, every offhand comment. There's no understanding people like her. There's only surviving them. And I did. Not because I was stronger, but because I stopped letting her define what strength even meant. She tried to burn me down to make herself feel tall. All she did was set me free. It's been almost a year now. A year since the night everything shattered. Since the mask slipped. Since the man who walked into that party died. and someone smarter, sharper, harder crawled out of the ruins. And when I look back now, I don't feel hate. Not for Amanda, not for the friends who bailed, not even for the old me, the one who loved too blindly, stayed too long, trusted too easily. What I feel now is heavier, real, earned. I feel clarity. Here's what nobody tells you when you survive betrayal. It doesn't break you the way the movies say it will. It doesn't leave you sobbing on the floor in some cinematic heap forever. No, it hollows you, carves you out from the inside, turns you lean, sharp, ruthless in your hunger for truth. You stop tolerating bullshit. Stop excusing bad behavior just because it once came with a smile. You stop believing love alone can heal someone who's dead inside. Because love isn't a spell. It's not some miracle currency that buys you loyalty. And it sure as hell isn't a leash strong enough to hold someone already halfway out the door. Amanda didn't betray me because I wasn't enough. Not because I worked late. Not because I missed a dance. Not because I brought home the wrong damn flowers. She betrayed me because that's who she is. Rotten people rot. Simple as that. It's not complicated. Not tragic. Not even poetic. Some people just crave destruction more than connection. And no amount of love, patience, therapy, forgiveness, or second chances will change that. I spent years trying to love the poison out of her. Years patching a ship she was secretly drilling holes in the whole damn time. I see that now. And if you're reading this, if you're where I once stood, fists clenched, chest caving in, wondering what you did to deserve this, listen to me. You didn't fail. You didn't cause this. You aren't broken beyond repair. You are standing at the edge of a choice. Rot or rise. Choose to rise. Even when your legs feel like they're made of concrete. Even when your lungs burn with the smoke of everything you built going up in flames. Even when your hands are empty and your heart is rubble. Rise anyway. Because survival isn't about coming through untouched. It's about coming through unbeaten. I rebuilt everything. Piece by brutal piece. No shortcuts. No handouts. Not one damn ounce of Amanda in any of it. I learned to trust again, but slowly. I learned to love again, but wisely. And I learned to live again, fully, fiercely, on my own terms. Amanda? Last I heard, she's still spinning in circles. New job. New city. Same lies. Same soul. People like her don't grow. They just find new mirrors to shatter. And me? I'm still here. Still breathing. Still building. Stronger. Sharper. Unbreakable. If I could say one thing to the man I was that night, walking into that party, still full of hope and trust and love, I'd tell him this. The worst day of your life isn't the end. It's the beginning of the version of you who will never be broken again. And that man, he's worth every damn scar.